And joining me now is Andrew Weissmann. He's a former FBI general counsel who previously served as a lead prosecutor in Robert Mueller's special counsel investigation. He's also a distinguished senior fellow at NYU Law School, and he's the author of Where Law Ends, Inside the Mueller Investigation. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Glad to be here.
So I want to ask you, on November 14th, you tweeted, quote, "Time's up, DOJ. The rule of law requires Trump be held to account, as others have been for like crimes. It's been over 14 weeks since the Mar-a-Lago search and many months since the DOJ investigation began. Timely action is needed." Now I ask you today, is this the action that you were hoping for?
Well, I think the issue of whether a special counsel should be appointed is one that a lot of people disagreed. I actually thought that if it was going to happen, it should have happened sooner. But it certainly is something I don't disagree in principle. Somebody saying, you know what, there are extraordinary circumstances here. There's potential or perceived conflict of interest, because you do have now essentially an attorney general who's appointed by one party and one president, and somebody who is running against that president under investigation. So you can understand why the attorney general did what he did. I think that the selection of Jack Smith is really telling, though, on the issue of speed, because they're picking somebody who has been a career DOJ prosecutor and is known for being very fast, very quick. One of his traits, I've known him for years, is really cutting to the chase and not getting distracted. And I think that actually will lead to this investigation, proceeding faster than if he were not appointed.
So I want to ask you, let's talk about the timing of the announcement. Donald Trump and his allies are already attacking the AG, basically saying that it's a political prosecution. Do you think that this will hurt the Justice Department's reputation, or, as you're saying, because it's a special counsel, it actually takes it away from the oversight of Merrick Garland?
I think it has the appointment of a special counsel had zero effect on that. Donald Trump, I think, it was going to attack Merrick Garland and a special counsel in the same way that he attacked Robert Mueller when he was appointed. This is a time-honored tactic of Donald Trump. It's very typical of people who end up getting indicted that they attack the prosecutor. So I don't think anything that Merrick Garland is doing is going to lessen what Donald Trump does in terms of the media. And so I think they just are keeping their head down, sticking to the facts and the law. And I think that's their best salvation in dealing with that. If I had to give one piece of advice on this, I would say it's really important to remember there is an educational public aspect to what they're doing, and they need to take the opportunities that they have when they charge, when they make announcements, to explain to the public what they're doing without crossing the line, and that is denigrating somebody and sort of hurting their chances at a day in court.
Andrew, one thing that I've often said was the silver lining in Trump's presidency is that he has been an active civic education in our government throughout testing our institutions. So I have to agree with you. Now, I want to ask you, this follow-up question. And there's a strong belief that Trump announced his candidacy as a way to evade prosecution. Does this presidential run make it more complicated for the DOJ to pursue its investigation? And do you actually think that that was his thinking, that he does want to evade prosecution?
Well, I think anybody wants to evade prosecution. I mean, I don't think
fair. That's fair. But Andrew, you know what I mean. Is this another tactic, another arrow in his quiver, trying to basically change it so that people are talking about his presidency and not the fact that he has potentially made real serious crimes?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think by announcing early, it helps him with the public messaging that this is a political prosecution. But just remember, this investigation started way before he decided to run for president again. So it really isn't in reaction to that. The only thing that's in reaction is appointing a special counsel. And that's not going to change the substance of the investigation. The same people who are investigating the case before are still going to be working, but now under the direct supervision of Jack Smith. There probably is another reason that he announced as early as he did, because in light of the midterms, and I'm not a political pundit, I'm a lawyer, but I do think it helps him with sort of crowding out the field and trying to do that. So there may have been a dual purpose in his announcement. But I do think it certainly is the case, as you point out, that he's going to use it as further evidence that he will say is the Department of Justice acting for political purposes, which I think is complete hogwash.
I will quote you on that, Andrew Weissmann. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Hogwash.